acknowledging that and at least getting some feedback from you on whether that quality assurance project has worked. But you've also been working with CFTC on a memorandum of understanding related to transparency and oversight. And so I don't know that we need to comment given our short period of time, but I did want to acknowledge the work that you're doing outside guarantee minimization of speculation and fraud.
Yeah, thank you, Senator. We are looking at those opportunities every day to try to provide more transparency.
Only thing worse than RIN is a fake RIN.
Yeah.
And that's what takes it away. So,
buy a fake RIN, that's pretty miserable.
Last question that I have, unless y'all had other comments as well. Ms. McCabe, you and I, when we spoke last, you were in the process of dealing with the requirements for ozone and the ambient air quality at the same time that you're dealing with the RFS. And we talked about the conflict between the two. Help me catch up on where that conversation is going right now, because as you produce more ethanol, it produces more ozone in those areas in the production part of it. At the same time, we're dealing with reducing ozone nationwide as well.
Yeah, so back in 2010 when we did our analysis, when we put the rule in place, we did note that there were places and times where ozone air quality could be increased. It's not uniform, it's not across the board, it's not necessarily in places where the ozone standard is not met already, so those are all complicating factors. And Senator, I think we're about where we were last time, which is that states and cities are working to meet the ozone standard. Most of those areas that are ozone non-attainment areas are large metropolitan areas, and so the contributors to ozone are overwhelmingly motor vehicles generally, industry power plants, and large emitters. But I'm not certainly not denying that we have found that there could be some increases in ozone as a result of ethanol.
I did notice as well that you and others had very different. The EIA had a number for what is E0 at quite a bit higher than what y'all have estimated what the E0 number is as well. Y'all, I think, we're around 200 million, and they were somewhere around 5 billion or something. Yeah,
it was order of magnitude. So that's the kind of discrepancy that gets people sitting down and talking to one another, which we did, and worked out that we were looking at different points in the process. So we were looking at the retail level. Their numbers were reflecting a point higher up in the supply chain. So we feel we've resolved that discrepancy between the two agencies.
But I would assume then the higher number still is used in the United States, or the lower number is what's used in the United States?
We were looking at what's used at retail, what's expected to be needed at retail in terms of people buying E0, as opposed to E0 somewhere else in the supply chain then being blended later.
Okay.
That makes sense.
It does make sense then. Any other final comments that two of you need to make that we did not cover?
No.
Mr. Rusko, your report's very thorough. I appreciate that, and hopefully in the days ahead we can get some good consistency on numbers and costs, because that's one of the areas that's missing still, is to try to figure out this number. What does it really cost the consumer? We have some estimates, but industry has not been able to do an estimate. We've not been able to get an independent estimate, and we're all kind of guessing what that would be at this point based on some numbers that are several years old. And so it would be extremely helpful for us to be able to get a good snapshot, even if it was literally grabbing one day a month for a year and then just snapshotting those days. This is what the estimated cost would be with or without the mandate, or with or without ethanol, because I would assume some days that it is less expensive, and it depends on the price of oil at that time, but I would also assume many days it's more expensive, especially with a lower oil price right now with what we have. So hopefully in the days ahead we can get that kind of number. Any final comments?
No, thank you.
Thank you both. Let me see if I've got a very formal closing statement for you to be able to make. That concludes today's hearing. There's my formal statement. I'd like to thank the witnesses for their testimony. The hearing record will remain open for 15 days until the close of business on December the 16th for the submission of statements and questions for the record. With that, this hearing is adjourned.
Thank you.